All right. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the first official episode of our Zoom Academy series. In this series, we'll be talking about important figures within the advertising industry, getting the latest scoop on what it's like during these current times, how to stand out, and the things that you can do to boost your resume and professional network. So this week we are excited to be talking to our former Midnight Oil Executive Board. We have Gino, Steph, and Nikki all here and can't wait to see what they've been up to post-graduation. So if we could just all go around the group and give a brief introduction on who you are and which position you guys had, just for those who may not know. So Gino, would you like to start?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Because I've had problems last year with connection. I was the president of Midnight Oil last year. Am I supposed to do anything else besides that? Maybe talk about like a funny joke, or is that pretty
That works. You can tell us a joke if you'd like.
No.
All right, Steph or Nikki?
All right, yeah. Hey guys, I'm Nikki. I was the creative director this past year, and taking over for me is Apollonia, the lovely Apollonia. And yeah.
Following Nikki, hi everyone, I'm Steph Maurer. Following in my footsteps as the account director is going to be Matt Peterson. Basically, my job in Midnight Oil was to be in charge of all of the accounts we had and make sure the client relationships were great. And I'm sure Matt will do that too this year.
All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, we're so excited to get to talk to everyone today, and I want to start by asking what you guys have been up to, how you've been holding up during this crazy COVID time, and how is the post-grad life? So just a general life update. How have you guys been?
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and start. Me, Gino, and Nikki have had the privilege of, staying in touch, and we've been staying in touch with you guys post-grad. I think we can all say, obviously, this is a very different post-grad experience than many of the people before this year have had. However, I was actually lucky enough to land a job, which I started in June, so that's been really great. Thank you. I am working in the financial services industry, not advertising, but what I'm doing is there's places where it parallels advertising, and we'll get into that later, but I think it's really awesome. So Gino, you can go ahead and talk about your post-grad life.
Yeah. Hello. So I originally had a job lined up in July for Edelman, the PR agency, and that got pushed back to January. So I have time. I was like, okay, that's fine, because they wanted to start in person. So I was like, all right, but now what do I do in the meantime? So I kind of I had a podcast going, but I'm doing the Breaking and Entering podcast. Annika actually inspired me with her podcast. Wannabe was one of the main influence of that. So I've been interviewing people in the industry and trying to break down their stories of how they got into their advertising position. So I think we're at about 22 episodes right now. I have a couple more episodes coming up, and we're pretty much booked up for all the way up to November. So we'll see how that goes. But it's been fun. I mean, it's a good way to spend the time. We'll get into side hustles and what you can do in your free time as well. So next up is Nikki Gary.
Yep. It has been a time, everyone. It's been fun post-grad, just figuring this out. But I've been keeping busy. This summer I participated in two programs that were kind of like an online Zoom thing. So one was called Camp Adventure. Definitely something to look into. I think they're going to be continuing on with it. It was through VCU's Ad Club. Really cool. We got to get matched up with a bunk, so I had some really cool people from across the country to work with on a campaign for the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's a mouthful, but it was really cool. And I also participated in the COVID-19 Business Fellowship Program. I know a lot of U of I kids participated in that as well. It was a really good experience. I got matched up with a small business that needed some help during these crazy COVID times, and I got to learn a lot about digital marketing as well as practice my advertising skills. So just kind of broadening that scope of what I can do and what I can offer as I continue my job search. Other than that, I've just been ramping up my photography, freelance side hustle, whatever you want to call it, and just having fun all day, every day. That's all I got.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear everyone's keeping busy. Sounds like you've made the most out of the situation, which is all you can ask for in these times. Another question I wanted to ask was how your professional life has been changed during these times, and what has been kind of the hardest aspect of that change. So is there something that has specifically stood out to you as being extremely difficult during this time, and how you've kind of combated that?
So something difficult, I think, is to get that job title and to get a job. Definitely it's tough right now, graduating in pandemic, and it's slowly coming back now. But one thing I have noticed since post-grad and with the pandemic is that people are willing to reach out and talk to you. You just have to be the one that does it. You'd be surprised, like I reached out to TBWA New York's CEO, Rob Schwartz, and he said he'd be willing to talk on the podcast. People have time and they're at home and they want that connection. So it might be hard to get a job right now, but it's no excuse for you to stop networking and putting yourself out there. So that's what I've noticed, but maybe Steph has something.
Yeah, Gino, to your point, I think that's really true. I've actually experienced it myself now, coming from I was the networker and now I've been getting networked upon. So that's been really cool. Some people actually from Gino's podcast have reached out to me just to shoot the breeze about advertising. So it's very true. We all have, speaking from someone who's been working from home for 4 months, it's honestly a privilege to be able to say, oh, you know what? I have to take 40 minutes to talk to this advertising student. Thank God, because I'm not doing my work, which is really nice. So I think, can everyone hear me okay? I know it's a little choppy. Okay, so I think the most definitely career-changing thing that's happened during COVID is obviously I took a job in finance, which is not the advertising sector. In school, I studied business, marketing, and brand management, so all advertising strategy stuff. So working in finance has been very different. I've learned the stock market over the past couple of months. I've learned everything about algorithmic trading, everything about, just a bunch of things that I would never have known. So I'm now working for a global company and I have meetings at 8 a.m. with people from Paris. And it's very interesting. So there's been lots of things that I've had to adjust to. And I think the biggest issue I've had adjusting is just missing that in-person experience. The in-person experience is where you can overhear people talking in meetings. You can overhear people putting things together. I don't get to overhear anything because I'm just in my home office. So the way I try and work with that is just, get on as many calls as I possibly can, beg my boss to let me shadow him just on any random call. So that's what I've been navigating. And I think with any new job, you're going to have to learn a whole new vocabulary, which is what I'm doing in finance.
Yeah, I would echo what Gino and Steph have been saying, that professional life has changed and how to approach it, obviously. Like you're not setting up coffees with people, you're just getting on Zoom with them, but it's been kind of an advantage. I think I've networked more this summer, just throughout this whole COVID time, more than I think I would have, honestly, if it had not happened, and I might not have met all these people. There was so many opportunities through the programs I participated in, as well as the We Are Next Coffee at a Distance. There was literally like a million people just saying, hi, I'm sitting here bored on my couch, call me, I'll help you with, whatever. And I'm sure we all saw that, but it was definitely something where it was like, oh, okay, open your eyes. It's okay to reach out to random people because you just want to talk to them. And you end up making a new connection that you never would have made otherwise. It's not necessarily that they're the person who's gonna get you a job like right on the spot and hire you like like at a job fair, but those connections are valuable and you can always learn from those people. So that's definitely something I have been focused on. And it's all about like the long game. Like you never know like how you can connect or work with someone in the future because you met them during this crazy time and you connected over it. So yeah, that's my piece.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, you guys. I feel like there's a lot of good insight and information that not only I can take from that, but I feel like our members will be able to as well, especially those seniors that are looking to get jobs in the next year or so. Next, I know Gino and Nikki mentioned that they have adopted some side hustles during this time. Could you guys speak on those a little more, kind of how those got into fruition during this time and how you've been building upon them?
Okay, so if I sound weird, it's because my connection's bad. So let me know. Put your hands up or something if things go bad. But I'll take it slow. I mean, really, the side hustle started because I had extra time, and I also had like the feeling that I wanted to express something out into the world. So just because you have time doesn't mean you have to put something out there. If something inside of you says, I want to put some work out there for good or for your own benefit, whatever it may be, then do it. Those two have to meet together where you have a passion to express something. Can you hear me still? Okay. I'm going to leave it at that because my internet's bad. That's like my one thing I wanted to bring up for that.
Yeah, I can speak on that too.
Hey, Gino, so you said, just to summarize, I think what Gino said is that just because you have time, you don't have to use it. Oh, my connection's unstable now. Okay. Just because you have time, you don't have to use it, but he had extra time, so he used it and put it towards that. Am I right?
Well, and then I also like had a passion to do something. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Just because you have time doesn't mean you have to do something. You have to have the passion as well, or it's not going to be good. Okay. Good. Glad I got
Yeah, and to add to that, so I mentioned I have been doing freelance photography. I've been doing that for like 3 years or 3+ years now. But I have had the time to kind of focus on it, and Gino's right, like you do have to have a passion for it. It's something that makes me very happy. I don't just do it for money or for like any kind of cloud or whatever. Like it just genuinely makes me happy. And I think there's like I think there's really a lot of value in that because people see that and they feel drawn to it and they want to be a part of it. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and just try something. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. My photography stuff is still not as perfect as I would want, but like don't let perfectionism stop you from just going and like putting feelers out there, seeing if someone would want to be involved with this. Like you saw Gino just like popped a podcast out of nowhere and now he knows like every CEO like ever. And he's just like podcasting around. So it's just all about just putting yourself out there and especially just attaching it to your passions and following those roads wherever they may lead.
Yeah, I definitely feel like passion projects and side hustles are definitely the way to go in uncertain times like these. And if you haven't checked out Gino's podcast, you definitely should. It's called Breaking and Entering. He does great insight within the ad industry, talks to all these CEOs and top executives, like Nikki was saying. So definitely check it out, you guys. And thank you guys for sharing and giving more insight on your side hustles. I feel like that's definitely some valuable information that we can all take from this time. And now I think we're going to hop into some rapid fire Q&A sessions. Apollonia is going to take over.
Hello, I'm Apollonia. I am the current creative director of MO, and time to do some rapid questions. So the first one that we have is one thing that you wish you knew about the advertising realm before you got into it.
Okay, maybe still trying to get into it, but I actually would say that something that I personally didn't get a lot of being at U of I for some reason, but I wish that I knew more about the opportunities that lie outside of just the traditional advertising agency, because there really are so many opportunities out there for people, with whether you're creative, whether you are focused on account or even strategy. There's so many industries to tap into, on client side and on agency side. So I think that's something that I'm even learning about right now that's very valuable to me.
Can I go? One thing I'm learning about is that the agency realm is short term. People don't really last in it that long. It's not where you're going to end up probably for your last career. So think about the long term.
All right. Steph, anything? Oh, it looks like she might be having some technical difficulties.
I think she might be switching devices.
Ah, there we go.
There we go.
1 second, sorry.
This is not very rapid fire. I would like to know.
Well, that's okay. We can come back to her. But I do have a question actually that piggybacks off of Gino's question or Gino's statement. We're kind of taught in the advertising program here at U of I that it's very agency focused and heavy, but there are a lot of avenues clearly that the skills that we develop in the advertising major here are transferable to a lot of different things. So if each one of you could go into a little bit of how your skills here as a U of I student in the advertising program have affected you in the real world, how have those skills that you've developed transferred to your projects and your jobs?
Everybody seems, a lot of people come to me with startup ideas, and graduating from U of I with the ad program.
You've cut out.
Nikki, you want to take over for him?
Yeah, so I don't know where Gino is going with that, but I'm sorry we could not hear you.
I heard stuff about a lot of startups are coming to Gino.
Yes, yeah. Not
asking
surprised about that.
advertise. He has a bunch of his friends who are in business, so I'm assuming they are coming to him. I think that's definitely something that's cool. I think what's cool is we're also staying in contact with, not to bring it too much back to Midnight Oil, but I guess this is a Midnight Oil chat. We're still staying in contact with Dio Block, the startup from last year. So hopefully you guys still work with them. I think they're still going to market at the time. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, and I think that it is important to just look at how your skills are transferable outside of the traditional agency. Like you were saying, there's so many avenues. And I mean, I don't have a full-time job yet, but I definitely have started to look outside of that and realizing, it's not just, I look more at the creative side. I want a job where I can express creatively, but I also do know a lot about strategy, and strategy can be applied to a lot of different jobs where you would feel very fulfilled, like you are doing strategy. It just might not say the same thing that you're used to searching for, and it might not be like junior strategist. Like it can look differently. It could be like community engagement person or something like that, and you work with social media and stuff like that. So, and digital marketing is something that I've been looking into and I worked a lot on this summer. So just keep your eyes open, and it's never too early to start looking as well. So
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's so inspiring that you're doing a lot of freelance, which is something that isn't talked about as much at school. You kind of have to figure it out for yourself, but that's really amazing.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, though. It's not necessarily the thing that you're taught the most, but it can be a very fruitful thing to pursue. It's very
Yeah.
it's very fulfilling, and also it can be a great like side income. So if you put your
Maybe
effort into it.
even main income. A lot of people have been
Yeah.
gaining a lot of traction during like quarantine and stuff like that for like online art and businesses. So
Yes, that's so wonderful. I actually talked to a creative director who was so inspiring like over quarantine, and she said that she um actually works 6 months out of the year, and she travels the other 6 months or takes breaks the other 6 months because she has her freelance career like exactly to where she wants it, because she in 6 months she can just make what she needs for a year. So your life can be whatever you want it to be,
I love
everyone.
that. Matt, are you gonna ask the next question or did you want me to?
Sure. Um, I guess this is probably the best question for Steph, or for all of you though. What is the most difficult client that you have ever worked with? And if you can give us a little story about it, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so I used to have the difficult client question is definitely one I'm glad you guys asked, and definitely one to prepare for in interviews, because Gino just said Illini in. That was my first client ever, and that used to be my difficult client. But as time goes on, it's actually kind of intense to see like how much more difficult they can be. I want to just address just something like more broad. This is a specific client I have at my job. So actually, this client is we struggle with different political views, very different political views, and he's very outward about. Gino has his mouth dropped, but yes, he's very outward about his views, and maybe they aren't, no matter what his views are, they are not always very respectful. And sometimes this will be on the phone, or he'll be mispronouncing my coworkers' names. There are just tiny microaggressions that he'll be making. So I found it kind of talking about how those advertising skills simmer over into those other jobs, kind of how Nikki was saying. So what I've done is just used my strategic communication and like to use only facts and talk with him. Of course, whenever he says anything that's, you know, racially stressful, of course I either ignore it or say maybe we could talk about something else. I never thought that this was something that I'd have to deal with, but I think it's really important to be able to balance that in a job and balance what is appropriate and what, because I don't want to let excuse me if I'm rambling, but I don't want to let things that are fundamentally wrong go under the rug, but I also don't want to be inappropriately talking to a person who's my client. So I think there's that balance, and nothing so far has happened, but I think that's really interesting. And as we move forward, especially in this political climate, which is going to be changing forever after the events that have been happening since April, I think this is something we're really highly aware of, and I think our skills in talking about these events are going to be better, hopefully.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have had a difficult client, but I would say difficult in a different sense. Not that the client themselves was difficult, but actually the subject matter was difficult. It was the client I had this summer, which was the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And this kind of goes out to the creatives out there, but trying to create a campaign for a client like that, where it's a very, very sensitive subject, it's something that you have to be very knowledgeable on. You need to educate yourself on in order to speak further. Maybe this is kind of applicable if you're working for nonprofits or in a pharma agency or something where those clients are going to be, there's going to be a lot of regulation around what you can do and put out there, as there should be. But yeah, it was definitely very difficult to navigate that one creatively, still creating something engaging and interesting while understanding the weight of what the problem was. that the client has to face.
That's an interesting perspective for sure. I've never come across where like the content, the subject matter itself was emotional to work with, where it's difficult. That's super interesting. Thank you. Evelyn, you
Are we
want to
moving
get?
on?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, what is one class you have to take at U of I?
I can start off with this one.
Mhm.
I'm going to hit you with two. You have to take Advertising 305. It's Intro to Digital Advertising Content with Mike Yao. I'd be surprised if it wasn't required by now, but it's an absolutely amazing class. You'll get 3 certificates bare minimum. And one of those certificates will connect you to one of the biggest programmatic trading and programmatic advertising agencies in the world, which is the Trade Desk. So you're immediately indoctrinated into this awesome network. Advertising 305, Mike Yao is amazing. Then Advertising 409, Media Entrepreneurship. You'll take that with Steve Raquel. I'm sure it's online now, but he's an owner of a business. He's an owner of his own consulting service. He teaches the master's program online, so he is more than equipped to teach online. I found that to be the best class for learning how to take ideas and make them into real brick and mortar things. So how to take an idea for an app or an insight for an app and wireframe it and actually flesh it out all the way, even if you're not a graphic designer, but all the way to like almost a finished product. So I thought it was once a week for like 3 hours at a time. And by the end of it, you had your own app completely fleshed out. Not usable, but the idea was there. So I would definitely say those are pivotal. They influenced my career and were so important for me.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would say that the class that you have to take is, if you're creative, but also if you're not, figure out a way to take Peter Sheldon's advanced creative classes. I think it's 452 and 454. Yeah, those are probably the most important classes that I took as an undergrad, and they really influenced like how I'm going forward with my career. Not only do you get to build up your portfolio, but you learn how to concept from nothing with any brand, and I think that that's a really important skill for anyone in advertising to have.
I think Gino's been typing in the chat.
Yeah.
Steph, would you mind reading that for us?
Yeah, no problem. So
You're a
Gino,
translator.
actually, I'm his interpreter for now. Gino says, first, I would recommend attending all core classes. Make sure you know that shit. Second, I recommend attending Steve Raquel's sports marketing PR class. It's fun and teaches solid PR skills. Hopefully that delivery was believable.
That was awesome.
That was indistinguishable, actually.
I can actually talk for myself. Thank you to those staff. I really recommend attending all the core classes. Thank you, Steph. That was great.
I have another question for you guys to answer. This is, I guess, for more of our newbies out there. Can you guys describe a time, I guess, describe the most pivotal time in your advertising career or your advertising major or time in AAF, the time that was most pivotal to you and the time that was like, this is so scary, I don't think I'm going to do it, if you did have one of those moments, to, wow, this is like more than I ever could have thought I could have done?
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead. Gino and Nikki are a little different than me in my path. I've always felt I've been behind. I only switched to advertising when I was a junior in college. So I was in the advertising major. I decided to go to New York. Didn't have any friends to go with. I was gonna make friends there, obviously, but I was really nervous. I was like, okay, why am I staying in a hotel with random people? Turned out perfect. These people are still people I talk to. I actually had a networking call with one of the girls I stayed in the hotel with. But the thing was, it was really scary. I had one friend on the trip, but we were split up, which ended up being great because, that's how you really, get out there and find your network and actually be yourself. So it was when I was alone at an agency and I found myself, I was just going to the bathroom and then I came out and I had to walk in the winding place of the agency. And I felt like I could be one of the workers. I was dressed just like one of the workers and I just felt like I could really work there. And everyone was just talking and there was paper everywhere and they were like, listen, look, this. And I just felt so safe and like so empowered and inspired. So that was when I knew that I was like, if I feel like happy in this workplace, then that's something I can do. So that was my moment.
Thanks. That's awesome. Yeah. New York is like the incubating time for everybody to like just face your fears and go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a lot of moments like that. What comes to mind is I was like a young little sophomore in advertising. I had just actually transferred into advertising. I think it was like over the summer before my sophomore year, and I was like going to the AAF general meeting, and I was like so excited. and they were talking about MO, and I decided to just apply and see what happens. And I went to the interview with the Scary Seniors, and they were so nice to me, and we got along great. And they actually ended up having me on, and I was like beside myself. I was like, this is not happening. Like, oh my God, I'm just a sophomore. But ended up so great, and it like built up my confidence so much to be around more experienced students that taught me so much. And I still talk to them today, like keep up with them. Even though they graduated like 2 years before me, I learned so much just like being kind of a sponge in MO when I was a sophomore.
Awesome. I don't know if Gino wants to give an attempt.
He might be typing it.
Oh.
Okay. So this is from Gino. I attended an internship panel hosted by baller AAF upperclassmen. They inspired me with their amazing jobs. That's when I knew I wanted to try hard.
Love that.
I almost feel like we should have a Gino soundbite interjection, like between everything that we do.
Yeah, I wish I could like edit my voice here. That should be the new thing on Zoom.
Yeah, right.
He said, LOL. I'm forced to say everything Gino says. All right.
Cool. Apollonia, you want to go?
Yes, one more question. One thing that you have to do before you leave U of I guess it's a little different now because we're online, but what was your favorite memory, I guess, that you have to do? Oh my goodness.
Well, what Gino wrote is obviously what you have to do, but since this is for the whole group of Midnight Oil, I think one of the biggest things you have to do is explore Urbana. Don't be scared. It's not scary. Apollonia will tell you it's not scary. It's fun. Don't listen to Gino's head shaking. There's so much art. It's a beautiful town, and it exists literally across the quad from you. So I think, and we have a bunch of clients in Urbana, and I'd like to expand. I'd like you guys to expand there. I think it's a great town, and it's like a suburb right next to you. So definitely visit Urbana, go to the bars there even. They're very delightful. There's a place called Crane Alley that's great. So I would go there.
Okay, mine is so random. I don't know why this came to mind, but it's piggybacking off of Steph's, but it's very specific to try the breakfast sandwiches at the Bread Company, which is in Urbana. So if you haven't been there, just trot on over. It's so good. My friends made fun of me for how much I obsessed over these sandwiches. So just please do it for me. Like, go try it. They're so nice there too. It's like you're in Italy for a second.
The Bread Company is seriously the best. I love it so much. I second that for sure. Other than that, I think we're wrapping up here. Do you guys have any last words of advice? Any insight that you can give to our new members?
from my side, this is kind of piggybacking off of Nikki, but I think advice for new members is just, yes, we are in an advertising club, but it's so much more than that. Like, there's so much to learn. For example, like this year, I didn't even know that I'd be a business consultant for a startup, but that's technically what I was and what I could put on my resume. And so that's what you do during Midnight Oil. So like Nikki said, like, be a sponge. No matter how old you are, no matter how competent you think you are, or how celebrated you are in the advertising industry, there's always something to learn. And use Midnight Oil as a place to revitalize and re-energize. Because even for me, there's so many times when it's just like, I don't really want to do anything anymore. Like, as school's getting really hard, it's getting cold out. But Midnight Oil is always there to recenter you and just be like, here's your path. This is where you're on. You're going to meet great people. You're going to make good ads. And yeah. So good luck. Good luck to Midnight Oil.
Awesome.
Yeah, you guys are going to do great. Honestly, it's going to be a little different being virtual, but I would just say don't be afraid to just connect with other people in Midnight Oil. These are like-minded individuals. You're always going to connect with them in some way, and you will never regret that. So just, put yourself out there in your Zoom way, whatever you guys are doing over there, and you'll do a fantastic job.
Yeah, and then just following up with a little advice from Gino, which I actually wholeheartedly agree with. Virtual learning is so important. So being able to execute campaigns and deadlines remotely, even though it seems so hard, even though we did it last year, it'll prove you're fit for the real world, because we're moving towards a world where people are going to start working from home a lot more, and international business is becoming a huge thing. So being able to execute remotely or asynchronously, so important. And Gino says, get used to it. That's all.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for that advice and for being our first guests on our Midnight Oil Zoom Academy. This was so fun. And it was so nice getting to catch up with all you guys. Gino's repping his merch over there. We love that. But yeah, thank you again, guys.